Good day to you. Welcome to another episode of the Fighting Men of Rhodesia YouTube series. My guest today is Don Huxham in the very north of the Northern Islands in New Zealand. And he was in 1 in-depth, 5 in-depth, and part 2, and also remained as a farmer in some of the hottest areas in the country during the war. So here's a story that I've been looking forward to hear, particularly from what farmers went through in the war. And so welcome to you, Don. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tony. Yep, great to be here. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And as I was saying offline, I'm thankful to you for getting up so early in the morning there. It's just gone 20 past 8 here in the UK, and it's about 8:15, 20 past 8, or whatever in New
In the
Zealand.
morning, yeah.
Yeah, in the morning. And you're a very brave man. I don't like getting up before 10. I've got a terrible lifestyle of going to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning. But Don, thank you for coming forward to talk. It's great for you to do so. And tell us a bit about yourself, how you got to Rhodesia. I believe it was through a trek from your grandparents or somebody coming from England into the country. Can you lead us forward from there?
Yeah, okay. On my father's side, there was so it's my great-grandfather, John Huxham, left Exeter in England. In fact, he didn't leave. He ran away at the age of 15. He ran away from home and was on a sail, and he circumnavigated the world a couple of times, and eventually settled in Bradensdorp in the Western Cape. And that's where my grandfather now was born. And at the age of 20, he left Cape Town via Cape Town, went by ship to Beira. And then he walked from Beira to Umtali. And then he set up a blacksmith shop. And then while he was doing that, he also did the riding transport, I think it was called, before the railways was built. So he and Mr. Partridge and Mr. Ross, there were three of them. So he'd deliver goods from Salisbury, Bulawayo, even Mt Darwin, and then probably came via Malseta, where grandmother she came up from Kroonstad. Sorry, yeah. So they went Kroonstad in the Orange Free State. There was John Henry and Johannes Steyn. So it was the Henry Steyn trek to Malseta. She was 11 when they set off.
Gee.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how long it took them, but out of 64 horses, only 2 made it at the end.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they had quite a rough journey, from what I
So
can gather.
your grandfather had good old Royal British blood, and your grandmother was a Folks lady, and I bet their blood was at war with each other most of their marriage.
I don't think so. I think there was banter.
Yeah.
I think I'm not too sure of the stories, but yeah, he wouldn't talk in Afrikaans or whatever. So I believe there was a bit of banter on that side of it. But no, she was very pleased to be out of Milseta, which was all family and relatives. So she trekked up with her brother to Umtali, where they got married, and then he went to Missouri to Spitzkop farm, and he farmed there for 40 odd years and retired about 52-ish, I think. No, would have been earlier, but a couple of years earlier, in the early 50s anyway.
A beautiful area to farm in, not so.
Yes, yeah. So he was in that Missouri Valley
Oh,
area there. So he
yeah,
was there, yeah.
beautiful.
And then on father's side, they were from England as well, Cumbria, I think. But they settled in the Western Cape. He was a Mossop. And yeah, the Mossops have got the leather factory. They went to leather mostly when they arrived. And well, it's still going, and wine farms there. So he left the Cape and with his brother Tom and came up to Rhodesia. I'm not quite sure the year. I'm guessing around about 1914, because on the title deeds is 1915 that he got the farm. But he did farm with his brother in Glendale. He had the farm in Glendale for a couple of years.
Hmm.
So that was the start of the First World Wars. And then he must have farmed a couple of years, and then he went and joined, helped the British there. But he ended up in a as a PAW. And I'm guessing it was in Tanzania, because all I've got is got a bit of a diary, and the names I looked up, which I can't pronounce half of them, were come up as Tanzania. So they must have been in the G GEA, German East Africa. I think he's only put the initials on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he was there. So obviously, then after the war, then he moved up because they got the farms all at the same time. Although he didn't farm on Dundry, which was in Matepa
Hmm.
until after the war. Then he moved up there and started farming.
And that was the beginning of you, I guess. So were you schooled on the farm, schooled nearby, or a border somewhere?
Dad was fitter and turner, so we were in no, Salisbury, uh, where I was born there. So and then he moved to Missouri Citrus Estates as the workshop manager, foreman. I'm not sure what they called it in those days. So grew up in the Missouri Citrus Estates and then was sent to Diggerfold as a boarder. So
Mhm.
junior school was Diggerfold. Yeah.
And you had to praat the Afrikaans there at Diggerfold, didn't you?
No, no,
No.
no, English. No, it was
Oh,
all good.
oh, good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No. So schooling, I wasn't, yeah, it was not, I didn't enjoy school at all. But because one teacher, I was stupid and dumb in those days. Can't say that now, but it
No.
worked out. I found out I was actually dyslexic, which I only found out much later. Um, but in sport, I was okay. My forte was swimming. So in my final year, there were, but well, I say the teacher, the master there, he had his two pets, and we had to practice giving the three cheers to the lady that was presenting. So he got me to do it, but he was adamant that one of the other two were going to beat me. So he was priming them up,
Yeah.
training or whatever. He was coaching them on the side, sort of thing, but he didn't realize I was listening. I was hearing what he was telling them. So on the day, I did smash it, beat them. And then when it came to doing the three cheers, I said, "No, get one of your pets to do it." So I got out of that one. Yeah. Senior school was Prince Edward.
Yeah. Did you say Prince Edward?
Yes, Prince
Yeah.
Edward. Yeah.
My arch enemy. Yeah, I went to Churchill, and so
Okay.
they were our main opposition with a couple of others in Salisbury for rugby and that sort
Yes.
of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Rugby matches were good when we played. Yeah.
between Prince Edward, Churchill, St George's was a good, strong
Yeah.
opposing
Yeah.
team, and maybe one or two others from Bulawayo. But I think those schools were in the top sort of leagues for rugby. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we had Tali at all, but I know Guinea fowl. We had a couple of where Guinea fowl would come up and we'd play them.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah. Umtali was a darn good team too. And I used to love going to Umtali for my away games. It was nice going there on the train, and we used to do all sorts of cruel things to the boarders on the train, like put dead frogs on sandwiches and give it to them and that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
good days. Yeah. So what did you come out of school? Did you get your A levels, or did you? What happened
Uh,
after that, Don?
yeah. No, I did O's. So I was in the mid stream. So Form 4 was COP and Form 5 was O levels. And I knew I wasn't going to pass the whole lot. So that was year fifth form, I was 17. So I got the folks just because I was still 17 when I did my national service. I only turned 18 in 71. So I got them, to work so I could get in. So in February 71, I did my national service.
What was the
Intake,
what was the intake, Don?
it was into 116 B Company. So we did our training there, and then we went to Wankie for the second part, the 9 months there. So in the training, I became a driver and got marksmanship for that. And I can't remember, it was 4 or 5 of us. We went on the shooting competition with our lieutenant. He got us, and yeah, we did about 3 weekends in the shooting competition, which we didn't do too badly. I think we came third or fourth in a couple of the shoots. So yeah, we did all right.
Is that while you were still doing your training, or was it
During that? Yeah, still doing training at Llewellyn.
training?
Yeah,
Oh, right. And you say
yeah,
you went up to Wankie. Was that for your coin warfare or classical warfare training?
yeah. No, yeah. So you did your 4 months or whatever training at Llewellyn, and then they alternated. The A Company, that intake in January, went to Kariba, and we went to Wankie, and then you sort of change over. So every alternate. Yeah. So we did Millabisi, Decca, that sort of area, with the base was in Wankie itself.
And was that with one of the in-depth companies?
Yeah.
Which in-depth company was that?
Ooh, I don't know. It was national service. It was still under national service.
Yeah, so you did.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
have been sent to a battalion or even some units like armored cars and that took national servicemen, but you probably would have gone into an in-depth company, and fourth in-depth, four in-depth, and one in-depth were based at Wankie. So do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember which one it was?
I'm presuming. I thought it was still one. Yeah. No, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have any interesting experiences in your national service?
Not really. No, we did a patrol down Wankie, the border with Botswana, and just Ks and Ks of sand. I mean, we just put the RLs into low first gear, might have been second, and you could actually, I was about the third, fourth vehicle in the convoy. You could get out and walk, and the truck just was in the ruts. And yeah, so we did all that down to Plumtree, did a few, stints down there, and then got back to Wankie, and then back to the Decca area.
I must admit the war really lagged behind quite a lot in Op Tangent and Splinter, which was up to Vic Falls. And I don't think any action of any note really started to happen until about 75 or even 76. So that must have been a pleasant little fishing trip for you. That
Yeah,
national.
no, it was good. I mean, I think we only had about 5 rounds of live ammo. It is, in the one magazine, the others were empty, or yeah.
That's where you learn that a grenade makes a wonderful fishing rod.
Yes, yeah. No, we didn't actually do that. We didn't actually get to the river too much, although we were in the Decca camp, which was there, but yeah, no, we were sent out. Yeah, so nothing out of the ordinary there, except we only got one officer that, the whole lot that went. The others came, we got about 4 sergeants came back. Unfortunately, our sergeant was a good one that we could call him Sarge, where the others were, no, I'm Sergeant.
No.
So,
And
so
do you remember any of the names?
our Sarge, yeah, well, it was Sarge Smart,
Hmm.
Billy Smart, I think it was.
Did you like the army, or did you find that it was just something you didn't really want to get invested in?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to, yeah, no, because we had the RLI and SAS when we were back in the Whelan coming to try and recruit people. But I don't think with the war not being hotting up, they didn't really get many takers, if any. I don't remember. I think there were a few that went, but yeah, it would have only been 2 or 3 in each course, maybe.
And then your NS came to an end, and what happened after that?
So that finished September-ish. And then I went straight into farming in Glendale. Was there for 3 years. So that was from 72 to 74. Did 3 seasons there. My first call up was in April 73. We went down the escarpment at the the Alpha Trail, which was a dirt, gravel, dangerous, very terrible road, and down into the valley there for the to Hoya School is where we based up.
Mm-hmm.
So that first night we went down, and along the escarpment we just stopped on the side of the road, had to dig shell scrapes, and that's where I thought, no, this officer's mad. He's, the ground was so hard you could hardly dig it. I mean, the shell scrapes were were rubbish. I mean, yeah, compared to the ones we had to dig it in Llewellyn. Yeah, no, so yeah, that put me off this lieutenant. He was a lieutenant then. Then the next day, from that place we slept the night. We had to then just patrol across. It was about 8 k's to the other road where that sort of ran parallel where the school was, where we based up. But yeah, sorry, when we got up in that morning, RAR were driving out. So they were there and they were telling us, be careful, the terrorists are here. They had a contact and whatever. And, everybody's joking, laughing, and thinking, yeah, sounds good. So we were pretty alert now. So we had seen that. And on that first patrol, I don't remember, or I remember one or two names. There was one bloke called, he was Dickie. He must have been Dixon. I don't know what his nickname was, Dickie. And he wore a diving knife on his calf, strapped to his leg, and we walked off. And of course, he would have been in his early 20s, mid 20s. No, he was older than that because I was 20 then. So he would have been in his mid 20s. But, you sort of look at this bloke and you think, oh, no, he had stories and being the manna and a townie. So we did that, but then we did a lot of sweeps because, yeah, the terrorists were in the area, and farms up in Centenary had been hit the Christmas before and stuff. So they were around, but we never actually found any spore or anything. And I mean, the one day, the 3 sticks, I think I don't know if we were 6 or 8-man sticks. We're in the extended line doing a sweep. And the tracker was there and he was saying, oh, no, we're on good spoor here. You can see how this bloke's doing anti-tracking and stuff. And so now we all sort of alert, but we had a couple of clowns that were at the end, and they managed to somehow run right ahead of us and hid behind a log. And as the tracker came towards them, they jumped up. Big idiots. I mean, they were just lucky we were green, because those 2 guys that had to walk a couple of meters behind the tracker and be his sort of lookout, they should have shot them. And I think that would have happened a few years later. They should have been shot. I mean, Mickey, I won't say his surname. Mickey was one of the 2 that did that. We eventually caught up with the spoor, and the anti-tracking was a teenager with a club foot. So, so that was a lemon. So there he was following the spoor of father and son, walking along, and it ended up to be, yeah, we never really saw any young people, 20, 30-year-old men. There were just none around.
Was that right down in the valley or up on the escarpment?
No, that was down in the valley.
In the valley, yeah.
That was in the valley.
Hard area to find anybody there.
Yeah.
And what unit were you? What company? 1RR?
1RR G Company.
G Company, okay.
Yeah. And then on the 23rd of April, again, we were the whole lot. So we did extended line, had to march. So we marched west or searched west, and then we'd go north. And when we were probably doing about 5 k's on each time, we were given a task. And then we'd get there in a few hours, and then the officer there would say, right, we'll now go to this, give us the next coordinate. And, so we'd been, when it was hot, sweaty, and we'd been walking all day. And eventually we got to the last place at, I don't know, 2:30, 3:00 maybe. And he gave us another point to go to. And by now, even our sergeants and everybody said, no, we've had enough. So we just got on the road, single file, and walked to the to the point for that last. It was about a 3K place. No, this is enough. This bloke tore the ring out of things. He wasn't a popular officer. So we hung around. There was a water trough, and we were there for about an hour or so before the trucks came. And then we all bailed up. There were two. No, there was only one truck. Sorry, it was just the one RL came to fetch us. We all jumped onto that and headed back. And going through a riverbed with a steep bank on the other side going up. As we were going up, we were ambushed. We got hit. 2 guys were killed and 5 of us wounded. Four of us in the company, and the 5th one was the tracker. And he was on the opposite. So we were all on the driver's side. He was on the passenger side, right at the back, in that back corner. So up the front, the driver got shot in the leg. I'm not sure how many bullets he took. Then there was Mark, he was a lance corporal. He got hit in the head. He was sitting on the water tank. And the bloke next to him, Jannie Beidendach, he was shot across the chest. So he had a big scar going right up across his chest.
Wow.
And then there would have been 2 or 3 people. And then there was, I can't remember the first name, Brown from Marandera. There were 5 brothers. They were good cricketers. They were at Diggerfold as well. So I knew him, but he was a senior. He was a couple of years older. Then I'm not quite sure where he got shot. Probably in the back. I'm not 100% sure. Then it was myself. So I took a round in my back and along my thigh. So it just missed my back and went down my leg. And then Johnny Forbes was sitting next to me. He got quite a few rounds in his back and he died. He was killed in that one.
Just describe the sensation of being hit. Is it like a punch in the back or a burn down your leg? What did it feel like, Don?
Well, yeah, the amazing thing was, I mean, I'm sitting with my rifle, between my legs. So there were 30 odd of us on this RL. It was packed. You had the bench in the middle, so the blokes opposite me were facing me, and probably Johnny, and then the next guy, the bench in the middle is facing the other way. So I'm holding my rifle like this, and then I suddenly got this like pins and needles sensation on my leg. So I grabbed my leg thinking, what's this? And then I heard the shooting. So to me, I had time from being hit, grab my leg, and then I registered the shooting. So yeah, but I mean, I think it was classic in those days. One magazine, automatic, the second magazine over your shoulder while they ran.
So they attacked you from, your truck was down there. They attacked you from higher up on the embankment. Did they shooting down?
No, they were on the side of the embankment.
Mm-hmm.
So the truck's going up. I believe the killing ground was at the top. So, okay, to me, he missed a gear, which I think was our saving grace. Because I believe if we'd have got to the top, that's where the killing ground was, and these were like the stop group. But because he missed a gear and sort of stopped to get it into gear because he was grating, I think these guys thought they'd probably been seen, and they opened up. So yeah, I think the killing ground was at the top if we'd have got up, and they were like more of a stop group as we bailed out or whatever.
And how did you guys deal with that ambush? Was it a case of firing back and then somebody going around the flank or something to hit them from the side? What happened there?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think there was some firing back, but I think they just held position because it was late. It would have been about 5:30 in the evening. So it was pretty late in the afternoon. two choppers came. So the one chopper would have taken 3 and the other one 2 people. So I was left behind with the tracker. By the time they'd got back to Centenary, it was dark, and they said they couldn't come back to fetch me. I'd have to wait till morning.
Wow.
Because there was no horizon. It was pitch black. But at about 10:30, there was a horizon, and they said they were coming. So they actually came and picked me up 10, 11 o'clock time-ish.
Praise the Lord.
So myself and the tracker were taken to Centenary. So it would have been just after midnight by now. And on the airstrip was a Land Rover with a couple of stretchers. I was just put in there and told to wait there till morning because they didn't really have anything. And obviously I wasn't bleeding, so too badly. They'd put pads on. So I just lay on that stretcher till morning, and then was put in a plane tog, I think it probably was, a small plane, flown to New Serum and then taken to Salisbury Hospital.
And whereabouts in your back were you hit? Was it a direct impact or a glazing shot, or what?
No, direct in. Yeah, so both these bullets had gone through the side of the RL.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually never felt it. So there was no internal, although the one in the leg went down quite a way. So I'm surprised that the one in the back didn't come through to the stomach, or it missed the kidneys and everything. So yeah, that was just a flesh wound.
And did it come out on your stomach, or did it stay
No,
lodged
no,
in
it
your
just
back?
stayed lodged.
Wow.
Just stayed lodged.
So the fact that it hit the side of the vehicle might have meant that bullet was spinning. And
yeah, it would have tumbled.
It didn't have the penetrative power of a direct hit.
Yeah.
Oh.
But so it wasn't a clean hole either. So, that's the yeah.
It wasn't your number that day, was it?
Yeah. But I went for an MRI about 2 years ago, 18 months ago. And, one of the questions, have you got shrapnel? And I wasn't going to admit to anything. But then I thought, no, I better, well, I'm jumping the story a little bit. I had shrapnel in my ankle. That's from another in 75. But getting back to it, I admitted that they had to go for an X-ray to see, and that it was like little fragments had gone all up my calf from that one. So they said, no, okay, we can do the MRI, put me in, and then they stopped and said, no, you got something in your back. I said, no, they took the bullet out. I said, no, there's a lump of metal there. There's something there, which I don't know, don't feel. So they obviously got the bullet and left a fragment of the RL. It's still in my back.
In that convoy, was it the 2 vehicles or the one?
No, just the one vehicle. And as I say, there were 30 of us there because, the driver would have come with a couple of shotguns, the bottle washers that come as his shotguns, and then our 3 platoons.
Gosh, 30 men on a vehicle is just...
No, it wouldn't be a platoon. Yeah, no, it was definitely 30 odd. Yeah, 30. Yeah.
Yeah, good Lord, that's probably double the number you should have in a vehicle. So,
well, I think after that, those middle benches with the side ones, so you only had the middle benches, or the middle benches also were taken out on some vehicles.
Good Lord. So I see you had middle benches facing outwards and external benches facing inwards. So
yes.
that could take 30 men then, I reckon, more or less.
Yes.
But wow.
And we were squashed. We had to squash up for everybody to fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. I would never let my guys, well, obviously it was later in the war, but I would never let any guy get on a vehicle if he didn't have a seatbelt. That was, I don't care what any major said to me. If there wasn't a seatbelt for him, then let's change the plans. But that was quite early on in the war, and I guess everybody was on a big learning curve, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, but so that was April, and then later that year, I don't know, 6 months later, I was back again. We next call up with G Company, and that's where my mouth, it didn't get me into trouble, but my mouth does rattle now and again.
Well, before you go into that call up, Don, you'd obviously gone back for recuperation, but you were working on the farm. What cropping and what farm was it? Was it mealies, cattle? What
yeah,
was?
yeah. I was farming in Glendale then. It was cotton, maize, seed maize, soya beans. Yeah. So it was mixed farming. Yeah, and he had a Afrikaner breeding herd.
And did you
Yeah.
enjoy that work? Did you like farming? Well, obviously, through your
Yeah.
parents,
Well,
you must have.
yeah, I was brought up on from the age of 11 when my grandfather got a stroke. Then my father moved from Zoe Citrus and he took over running the farm. So at the age of 11, I was on the farm. So,
And I've interviewed other guys that have been farmers versus city dwellers, and the guys that grew up in farms seem to have had an easier time adapting to the bush and the familiarity of it and sleeping in the bush at night. Did would you agree with that comment that you didn't find it too much of a train smash going out in the army?
yeah, no, not at all. No, it was fine. Yeah.
Mm.
Because I mean, on the farm, I'd always go with my couple of dogs and just roam around in the in the bush, and yeah, so I was outdoors. Yeah, well, I didn't have a pellet gun or anything like that because my father was against guns in a way. So I mean, my I used a pellet gun now and again at neighbours or whatever. So to get into the shooting team in my national service was I was really chuffed with that.
Good.
And then, of course, in later years, I did do hunting and had a array of weapons. Yeah. So in Glendale, yeah, it was quite in those early days was fine. Although with those centenary things, people were jumpy because the boss and them they were in part two and they would go out for roadblocks
Mm.
mostly, do night roadblocks and stuff.
Yeah. So you obviously got well quick enough to go on another call up a few months later, and you said it was back into G Company 1RR. Were you deployed to the same area again?
No, we went to yes and no. We went to Centenary first. So we did a couple of weeks because those were 4-week call ups. So we did 2 weeks in Centenary, just patrolling the farms and spending the nights with the farmers because they were getting hit quite badly at the end of 73, beginning of 74. So we were patrolling up there. I think half the company went down to back to Hoya School, and the other half we were up there for about 2 weeks, and then we went and joined them back down in the valley.
And was that part two of the ankle incident, was it?
No, that was a couple of years later. No,
Right.
so we did quite a few. So Centenary, then we did another one. There's also Centenary East, and then we went down the valley more towards Mokambura. I don't remember what that base was called, but we had a different major. Well, going back, that second one was with G Company. And when I saw the officer coming, because I was very unhappy with him, to put it that way, he was now a captain.
Okay.
So I said, "Oh, how many of us are going to get killed this time to
Oh
get more
no.
promotion?" Was
Good
my comment to him.
good comment. Hey, what was his reaction?
He carried straight through to the ops room, never to be seen again.
Mm.
He didn't come on that stint. I think they were scared I'd put a bullet in him.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was my comment to him. So he was never seen again. Then so after that camp, I was then H Company. They moved me on.
And
And we
was 1RR at full strength? Was it a full battalion, or did you struggle to get the numbers on your call-ups?
No, we were full strength. Yeah, no, I don't think no, we didn't battle. No, it was okay, so that was 73, 74 through to 75. Yeah, so in that last, so those like three camps was down Centenary, the Valley, and that last one down there towards Mokambura was Major Basil Riddell. which is Rob's father.
Ah,
So I knew him. He was related to the our neighbours, the McKerseys. So yeah, I'd met them on the farm a few times.
mm,
Yeah, so that was a good camp. I mean, he was a good the officers that talk to you, not down to you or like that other bloke. We never saw him. It was only through the sergeants and corporal who you'd have the briefing. Then they would brief the corporals, and then we would. So it was third, fourth hand by the time we knew what the stories were. Where with Basil, he would come and talk to us and hint what was going on. I mean, obviously they couldn't tell us too much. But yeah, so those were not bad. And then the next camp was we did Mziwa Umfurudzi area, based in we were based in Mziwa. Then another camp. So now we're going to August 75. We were based in Matipa. The officer there, yeah, he was a captain, was Brian Deveronen, who I've skivvied for at school. So
yeah.
I was his skivvy. So yeah, no, we had good banter. So yeah, no, we had, we understood each other, put it that way. But anyway, so yeah, so we did our patrols in the Matapetepa farming area up in the north end, mostly bordering Mt Darwin. And I was working, by now I'd moved up Catania, and so I was now farming in that area. But so we did a patrol, more or less. There was a couple of Ranger Hills, Audrey, I think the name was Audrey. So you go over quite a steep range of hills onto another road that came from Rua Falls, where Pat Johnson was, went up to Cheaper, where Don Cocker was farming. So we came over that range of hills, and the other side was so steep. There were places we just sat on our backsides and slid down quite a bit. I'm glad we never tried to climb it from that side. So we went down, and there was a little stream there because the road was for pickup. Guys were swimming. But we always made sure one of us was on guard. And we got picked up, taken back for R&R a couple of days later, which I'm not sure if it was on the day. I think it was. It was on our first day when we'd moved from 4 weeks to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those call-ups, we were on our 4 week call-up, so we should have gone home the day before. I don't remember the date. We were sent up. So we were dropped off where we were picked up by the stream there, and we crossed that and then had to climb up going north where we'd come over from the east. So we went up, and again, it was pretty steep. We climbed up, and as we were almost at the top, we got opened up on. There was a camp where we were going to OP, was a camp. I was hit because I went down to the kneeling position to fire, and I got hit in the ankle. We went through the boot. I had those boot with the ankle, so I got the shell got stuck in the bone there of the round, and then shrapnel went into the thigh of my right leg.
Mm.
So, and then another chap, Jimmy Brown, he was from Bandura, and well, in our stick there were 5 of us. There was Jimmy Brown, Rob Hutchings, who was his brother-in-law, myself, Henny Van Eden, and Kyle Watkins. Kyle. Oh, geez. Yeah, so there were the 5 of us. And Jimmy took a round in his leg. It broke his bone, and it took a long time to heal.
Mm.
He battled. So he left. He was working on the Trojan nickel mine in Bandura. After that, he took off and went down to Durban. And I believe is working in the docks down there. Yeah, so that then we were helicoptered to Mt Darwin, and then I ended up in KG6.
Did your group manage to sort out the tours, or did they take off, or what was the scene there?
No, they took off. Yeah, they were. We didn't follow. Again, it was late afternoon going in for the OP for the next couple of 2 days. And so they had to chopper landing site, which was on the side of the hill. No, they took us down. We went down. It was thick trees. It was quite a mission for them to. By now, the backup had arrived, and it was only the next morning they did a follow-up blood spore. Didn't catch up with them. They managed to slip because there's a farm down there, which I think they must have been feeding from. Yeah. So yeah, but I think they were caught later on, or one or two, because there were other contacts around. And that was my last call up at 1RR. And then
That's a pretty painful wound in the ankle, hey?
yes, yeah, especially that bruised bone as well. That took a long time to get rid of the limp in a way. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
And so
it was
you were stood
it
down
was funny.
after.
Sorry.
Carry on, Don, sorry.
Yeah, no, it was a long, because I mean I was in KG6 and that, and I don't remember details too much, but it was months later I had to go to Bandura Hospital to get the actual shell of the round taken out. So yeah, so I don't know why it wasn't done before. So, and of course now that the doctor there gave me the round, I mean, where the other ones from the other ones, they were all taken back for forensics. So I had that, and I don't know, I lost it when we left the farm. Yeah. So in that, so that call up and the Madziwa call up, I was on Catania in north of Matepatepa. So in the Madziwa trip, we'd come across, and on a couple of times we ended up in my little cottage for the day or whatever, have a bit of an R&R and go back again, back to base. Yeah. So and then after that was the next call-ups were 5RR, which was all in Matoka. We were based on this, the first, yeah, I was now young. What would I have been? 23. I was given the MAG, so I was the MAG man in our little stick. Yeah, which I had good fun with. So yeah, we first camp was on sort of just on the side of the road on a rocky outcrop. Our sort of platoon as such, the main crowd were at some keep. Nothing really happened that trip. Then there was another trip. We were based at the airfield in Matoka. So we did a couple there. So we were taken out from there doing OPs and stuff.
Were you deployed by chopper ever?
Yes. Yeah, a few times would be 2 or 3 choppers flying, and then the one with us, our stick in it, would just suddenly drop down. We had to bail ASAP, and they would carry on, and then we would go up into an OP position. So if anyone was watching or whatever, they would just think they were doing a flyover, pass over, looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A low pass, yeah.
So I'm trying to think. So on one of the OPs, we had quite a big field ahead of us. We could see for 700-800 meters. The huts were just straight down below us. There was one big brick rondavel and a couple of other little huts, and then this big open field before the next outcrop. And the one day we saw these 2 guys running, coming out of the bush. No sooner had we were trying to radio to say there's something happening, we were told, no, they're being chased. They've just been a contact, which we didn't hear. So it must have been a fair way. And then the paratroopers came. They were dropped almost where they were. And then must have been 2 G cars. I don't remember the 20 mil being fired. Two G cars were overhead and were firing, and the one bloke came to the rondavel just below us, and he was running around the rondavel with a G car firing on the south side. We were on the north side. So when he came round this side, I was firing with the MAG. So he was thing. He did get hit. So yeah.
He had a terrible time trying to escape you guys, eh? Jeez.
Yeah, because he thought he was hiding behind the rondavel from the chopper, but meanwhile the MAG was raining on him.
Mm.
Plus a couple of FNs. There were other guys who also chipped in. And then on my last beginning of 77, no, 76. In March 76, there in Matoka area, there was like a landmine every day.
Mm.
And most of them were double two landmines or had rocket grenade launchers, under them as well. So they were mostly boosted. And in the keep where we were, about 200, 300 meters from the keep was a little stream. And they'd put a landmine right near the water there, on the edge of the water. And a little 404 in a pickup hit that. The engine was blown clean out. So that must have been a boosted one. Probably two landmines. Because the engine was, as I say, it was only a small stream, but a few meters the other side. So, 5, 6 meters away from the vehicle. The driver was okay. I think he just had leg injuries.
Was that a civilian vehicle or military?
Yeah, civilian. It was a 404 Peugeot
Good
pickup.
Lord. He's lucky, eh? Good Lord.
He was like, yeah, it hit his passenger wheel.
That's
I think that
a
engine.
miracle. A miracle.
Yes. Yeah, no, he wasn't killed. So, yeah, he didn't die. And then a few days later, the group that were on the that were based at that rocky outcrop just off the main road, they walked across and came over for a day of poker and cards with the guys because, I think it must have been a Sunday. And it got quite late because they'd just walked over. Now it was time to go back. They were deciding the driver of the vehicle wasn't around. So I volunteered, said, no, I was a driver in national service. I've got my license, although I didn't have it with me or whatever. So, so I was told, okay, you jump in. So I took them back. And of course, fortunately, as you say, we had the driver had the harness, the double strap on the shoulders. So I pulled those down, got in, and now started to take them back. And I would say from that sort of stream to the road would have been 200-300 meters straight road, and about 100 meters up from that stream, I hit that another a landmine.
Wow.
And it must have, fortunately, I think it was just one because it just took the wheel off the vehicle. We had the armor plating or the metal plating under. Plus, it was like I'd hit a bad bump. So yeah, it wasn't. So yeah.
Was the sun already set at that point, or was it still fairly light?
No, it was still light.
Did you see a big orange flash from the landmine? One of the ones I hit lit off a beautiful red halo, and then it sort of morphed into yellow, and it was actually quite colourful. And the funny thing is, when you sit close to a landmine, you don't hear it. Did you hear it? Did you lose your hearing?
I lost my hearing. I didn't hear it. As I say, I thought it was just a bad bump.
Yeah.
And then I heard the blokes at the back get opened up.
Yeah.
They started firing because on the east side was open field with some people working in it, and on the west was straight up granite rock. It was a big. So they opened up. So as such, I didn't hear that big boom. I don't remember the boom. And and it was only when I jumped out that I saw that the wheel and everything was off it, that it hit the landmine.
Yeah.
It must have been right on the edge of the middle strip. And I must have just caught the edge of it and it set it off.
Good Lord. I think the Rhodesian army must have really struggled to keep our vehicles going with all the landmines that they were hitting. I once saw an area, I forget where it was, somewhere near KG6 or where the buses were on that funny road near the industrial sites. it was just like 2 acres of mangled army vehicles, and it must have been a mission to keep them going and running and supply us with enough trucks. It's a pity though. It's a pity though that more bookies weren't made, because in the end, I read this just the other day. I don't know where I read it. You know, I read a lot of books on the war. That the bookies never ever set off a mine in the entire war, and they were very successful in picking up landmines. And you'd think with this loss of vehicles and lives that the manufacture of bookies would have been a major priority, but it never seemed to turn out that way. You know, like every company or so deploying should have had a bookie in front of it.
Yeah, I think they were more, yeah. So from the main road from Motoko to the border there, on the Mozambique side, that side was badly mined. Those were the main mines where people were hitting the mines. Yeah, so all the roads that didn't have the buses that the buses didn't use were heavily mined.
So what happened after that? That was quite some experience, getting blown up, and I bet you had a couple of beers that night, eh?
Yes, no, we did, and then back on patrol the next day. Yeah, no worries. Yeah,
No time for PTSD counseling, or you know, an
not in
injection
those days.
an injection of morphine for your nerves. You just get shoved straight back in the bush.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was the same with that other time, from hospital straight back to work. There was no R&R or recouping anywhere. It was straight back to work and back on the farms. Yeah.
Good Lord, hobbling around.
So that was the army days. And then so then farming 74, I went up about September 74 to Catania worked with for Kevin Fallon. Don't think I was armed initially, but then we sort of realized he had a 9mm pistol. So I thought, oh, I got to get something, and all I could muster up was a .25 pistol. It held 6 or 7 rounds. I think it was 6 rounds and one up the chamber. So that was my little pea shooter for the first few months. And then so that was September, got Christmas. So somewhere around January or February, maybe in the new year anyway, the farmers up there were issued Uzis. So he got an Uzi. I had his 9mm for a while. So until I got myself one. So yeah, so he had the Uzi. And prior to me going there, he had South African, I don't know if it was police or army, there was a South African unit around. And they gave him a few boxes of 9mm tracer.
Lovely.
So, a week or two after he got the Uzi, we decided, no, we've got to go and see how these tracer work, what they look like. So we went right up to the top end of the farm, which was still, because he was opening up the farm at a rapid rate. But the top end still had a bit of bush up there. But we went right up to the top, and then it was almost last light. We fired into where the beacon is, the hill on the corner of the farm. So we would have been 200-300 meters, 300 meters away.
Yeah.
And we open up a magazine, a tracer, into the beacon, which was an OP.
Oh no.
It was an army OP up there. They didn't compromise their position. They stayed tight. So we now finished shooting, and now at last light we turned around to go home. And while we were driving back to the homestead, we were met by the reaction stick in their vehicles, asking what we would do. Because we'd also fired off a few other rounds just into the bush and just had a field day.
And that tracer, did it drop from gravity, or was it quite straight over the couple 100 meters?
No, it was a good arc. No.
Oh.
I mean, he was firing up. It might have reached the bottom of the hill, but I mean, they obviously saw the tracer was coming to, I don't know how much of the tracer they would have seen, but
yeah,
they knew the bullets were hitting below them. So
And your farmers' vehicles, did the farmer make an attempt at mine-proofing them by putting conveyor belting around the wheels or in the engine bay or under the seats? Was any sort of
no,
provision made to keep your lives a bit safer?
nothing while I was up there, nothing really. I was on a motorbike. He was in his little pickup, Peugeot pickup. Then he did get a Land Cruiser. Yeah, but nothing was mine-proofed or
Yeah.
whatever.
Amazing. Yeah.
And
I would have just been too scared to drive in any vehicles thing, actually. Yeah, carry on with your story.
yeah,
You were farming obviously at that point, and
yeah,
what
I
were the
was farming
what were the crops there? Same as the other place.
crops there. Yeah, no, it was tobacco was the main crop, and maize and cotton for the first couple of years, and then he dropped the cotton. It was just maize and tobacco. I'm trying to think. It must have been Christmas 75, 75, 76. Yeah, Christmas of 75. Um, I think Kevin and Mac had gone away, um, and I was giving the Christmas ration, the extra mealie meal and cooking oil and stuff we gave them. And I got a message that the tractor had got stuck. So I rushed up to go and look, and of course he was stuck to his ankle. I didn't get off the motorbike. I just burst out laughing at him that he'd managed to get it. So, and said, I'll call another tractor, and went back. So I never went back there to see them get it out. But we learnt later the terrorists they would have been about 50 meters away from the tractor. There was a little rocky outcrop, and they were in there. So if I had have got off and got on the tractor or done anything, I don't know what would have happened there. But literally, I didn't get too close to the tractor, and when I saw what the problem was, I just turned around and went and sent another tractor there. But then again, the Chibuku truck only arrived pretty late in the afternoon. We had 2 or 3 drums that we gave them. I can't remember, there's 4 liters, measured out Chibuku for them. And so I had it at the grading shed door, and there was a bit of a platform there and for the light. So I rationed them, gave it all. And at the end, there must have been 2 or 3 liters just on the bottom, like an inch of Chibuku at the bottom. And they wanted to know who was getting that. I literally just took a couple of steps back and said, go for it. And they were like, like chucking sweets out to the kids. It was, but again, the terrorists were 20, 30 meters away in the dark at the workshop area was there. They were just standing there watching.
How did you
So
find it out? How did you find it out, Ron?
later on, a couple were caught, or yeah, and we found out because okay, so that was Christmas. New Year's night, there was a big party at the Matep's club, which we were all going to. Kevin and Mac took off. They went, and I was following a bit later. Literally, I was about to get ready to go, and we had army chaps had come to spend the night in the barns, and from the barns, just across the road was a tobacco field, which was about chest high, and we were going to put a bit of top dressing or some fertilizer on it on the next morning. But they suddenly opened up and said that there were a whole, group of terrorists had walked past. Of course, the next morning they didn't really see any spoor or anything, and they reckon you were seeing things. But when I was in the land now, putting on the top dressing, we found a blanket roll, like a bedroll, and of course they were all up in the house, the having the police and all that, and the other army chaps had having a debrief, and I gave them this and said they were here. They had, and I think follow-ups after that. In fact, they did. Sorry, they wounded one who spent a couple of weeks in the cook's house. in his hut. So the cook was getting the medicine from the madam for which was in the back storeroom there, which he had full access to. He was treating this bloke, and it was later on when a couple of or they were caught somewhere in a contact. It came out that they were there watching me doing the rationing and at when the tractor was stuck. Yeah, and then round about February, I was top dressing maize, which was coming into tassel, so it was overhead high. And the next thing, there were helicopters flying over and stuff. And yeah, we didn't know what was going on. Never heard any shooting or anything. But when I came home at lunchtime, there were a whole lot of army blokes there and that. And what had happened, Kevin was up in the grading shed, and the window overlooked. He was building a new compound out of bricks now on a thing, and he saw two men walking out and then back up the fence heading north back into the bush there. So he had the army and they went did a follow-up, and there was two terrorists that they shot. So, the helicopter had come in and picked them up, whatever. And they were brought to the sheds and everyone in the compound. And he saw which house they'd come out of and that. So those women were put there into there. Now you see your friends and that sort of thing. So there wasn't much activity as stuff on the farms and that, although I did go across to a couple of farms away to Quinton Hamner. I'd go and visit him in the late afternoon, but I'd end up coming home after dark on a motorbike. And sometimes you sort of think yourself, okay, am I going to make it? Because on the way, you sort of did go. I went through a compound of Tiraguay because he was really isolated on the Mdziwa boundary. Other things, I'd get the weekend off, head up back to Rory's, and then coming home early in the Monday morning. So, like 4:30. I had to get up 4:30 to wake, go around, get everyone up to work till we at work at first light. There was an army roadblock at Tara Farm turnoff, which is about 8 k's from Catania. And they said, no, you got to wait. We got to do landmine clearing. So, well, what time do you do that? We start at 6. I said, I got to start work at 5 in 20 minutes time. I'm not waiting. So I took off. I just drove around their roadblock and took off back to work. So, fortunately, we'd just been tarred, but so you still had the stone chips, in the middle of the road and that. So, I don't know what year it was. There was a landmine just past us on the Mt Darwin side, we were tarred to the boundary of Matepa and Mt Darwin, and then it was dirt, and a Chibuku truck hit a landmine, which we heard the boom. We were up in the tobacco land, and we actually saw the black billow of smoke. So there was one there, and then just before Catania, there was a corner from Minto to Catania, and they'd put a landmine in that loose stone in the middle of the road, which a Bindura haulage trailer hit. Obviously the truck stuck to the tracks, but the trailer cut the corner a little bit, and the trailer hit the landmine there. So there were landmines around when I was there.
Quite a risk you're taking, really, zooming around on your bike or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, in hindsight, but young, dumb, and
Were any of your neighbours' farms attacked directly on the homesteads? Did they actually have tears come up to the fence and give them a squirt?
There were a few. I can't remember details of those, but the thing is, I got married in June 76, went on honeymoon, and while I was on honeymoon down in Natal, that's when Frank Pitcher was killed on the next door farm, Amanda. When he went to his workshop in the morning, it was that first thing in the morning. I think Hugh Bland mentioned it. He 77, I moved down to Dundry, took over the home farm, the family farm. And then that's when it did heat up there. So they had more contacts and stuff after I'd left that side. At the middle end of 77 is when I joined Part 2.
Right. And you were on your own family farm at that point in time?
Yeah. So now I was there. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, so we were now in those first few, 77, 78 maybe, we didn't really have any attacks down our end. They came later. So our part of stick, I was in John Browning's stick, which was actually a Bandura stick. So between me and John Browning was 8 Ks, and we used to call it Ambush Alley because it was a lot of bush. There was a good 4 or 5 Ks of just hills on either side and no open ground.
Mm.
But we were in those first, so 77, 78 probably were more on OPs, the bottom end of Madziwa and Umfurudzi area, and our area a little bit. By then, it set up a base station on Riverview Farm, which was between the two Missouri River and the Sambi River, going to Bandura. So not much in there then. And then towards about 78, 79, they were closer to home now. So when we got called up on nights, during the day wasn't a problem. The wives stayed at home. But if we were going out for a night ambush, or we'd go out in the evening and sneak into an OP, the wives would base up on mostly on Benridge Farm with Sue Browning. The odd night they'd go to Wendy Beck's or Brenda Brevin, the odd night there. Fortunately, all their kids were left home, where now I had a young son and daughter, and she moved around. We had a 1-year-old and a baby in 77, 78, 78, Sharon was born. So in 79, she was carting around a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old when she had to move it and go and stay nights over with the others.
And how did the ladies protect themselves? Were they trained to use firearms? Or was there a police unit or somebody helping them?
No, they were on their own with their own firearms, yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Mostly, yeah.
Brave ladies, eh? A baby on the
Yes.
left hip and a MAG on the right hip, eh?
Yeah, no, it was. It just, I suppose we felt pretty safe in the house sense attacks in those at that time. A couple of incidents we had was we did an OP on a compound for the day or on a farm because we knew they were in that area. It was the owner didn't live on the farm. So there was no homestead on the farm, just the compound, and he would come over and work. So we were opening that, and it was a Saturday, and we were going to ambush that compound that night. And on the Saturday, late afternoon, it was Rhodesia versus one of the South African Currie Cup game, a rugby match. I'm not sure if it was in Harare or South Africa, but then we changed channels. We had, I think 1, 2, and 3 were the operating channels, and then we went up into the teens. So we went up to a much higher channel, and we're getting the score and listening in and finding out how the game was going. And then that evening we went down virtually at last light, snuck into by the gate because they were fenced, and obviously someone in the compound must have seen some movement or something. A couple of chaps came to the gate and were shouting the odds, but we just lay low. We didn't. So it was either that or they were calling the terrorists that the coast was clear, sort of thing. Then they walked off back to the compound, and I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, the terrorists arrived at the gate, shouting for them. These guys came. And we literally had the one guy, while they were opening the gate, the one guy came up, because it was like a little anthill type place we were at, came up he was obviously going to be the guard, and the others were going to go in to eat. Our stick leader waited until he almost stepped on us before he opened up. So because he was so close, he was just hit in the head, had a head wound, and was picked up the next morning. And he ended up in the fort in Bandura with McGuinness and was turned. And yeah, they managed to get. I can't remember if we wounded any of the others at the gate because I was at the other end, so I wasn't on the gate side. So yeah, so we got one result out of that, and he was turned and ended up in the Salute Scouts.
But that type of thing for people who've never been in an ambush or something like that, it really gets your heart thumping, and your senses come alive, and your vision is enhanced. It's amazing how the human body actually works in a situation like that. How all your senses just come alive.
Oh yeah, so that radio being on the wrong station. So when we were calling now to say that we'd got one and had our contact, the radio was dead. And it was only quite a few minutes later, uh, got his lighter onto it to have a look what the problem with the radio was. And he realized we were still on the rugby channel. But in the meantime, the neighbor, John Cottrell, he had reported it on his AGRIC alert, that he'd heard firing on the neighboring farm where we were. So the reaction stick were on their way, and yeah, it's amazing how we drove as reaction six straight into a battle scene, into a firefight in the pitch black. I think at that stage they were hoping, they wanted more wounded than dead to get information. Yeah, as I say, we would just blast away into a ambush site or a homestead that was being attacked. Because 9 times out of 10 for us, we knew it was a hit and run up with Zanla. Zipra were a different kettle of fish. Then on another incident, there was a group of terrorists burning tractors, more on the Bandura side, Bandura Glendale. So it was the bottom end of Chueshi, and there was a range of hills that they went over. So they weren't hitting any households or farmers. They literally just went in and were burning tractors. And they, over about 3 or 4 days, they burnt 3 or 4 tractors. I can't remember the figure. So between us, we were on the Chueshi side, but in our sort of area was a dead area where Chueshi would come in for R&R, and Mdziwa group would come in also for a bit of an R&R. So to them it was a safe area. They kept it sterile in a sense of not doing attacks and keeping forces away from our farms in the Chelvey, Dundry, Benridge area. So when they burnt those tractors, we thought, no, they'll be heading back towards Mdziwa maybe. So we were called out that night to do an ambush on Mark Chance's smaller farm, Sydenham, not Headleywood, his main farm, and then he had a smaller attached to it. So we went and ambushed that compound. 8 o'clock that evening, we eventually got the radio call, my tractor was burnt. So we'd been up at on a farm, on a land, doing it, planting tobacco and stuff, and I'd gapped it early to go and meet up with the stick to do our ambush. And the tractor, when he left, they just drove it into the paddock across the road and burnt it. So that would have happened at about 5:30 in the evening. And we got the message at about 8 o'clock that night while we were in ambush that they'd burnt the tractor on my place. So I got a burnt out tractor, which wasn't too bad, I think, because I managed to get a brand new tractor 2 days later. There were tractors coming in for affected farmers, and because it had been happening in other areas as well. So, I said, oh, geez, guys, look what favor you've done me. And I sent another tractor out for the next 3 nights because we had the granite copies on the far side. Sent him out every evening. Said, tell them to burn this one. I need another tractor. Just to antagonize them. So yeah, going back to the R&R area, that we did a sweep because the RMS truck driver, which was the Railways Motor Services, they would do our deliveries for mail and anything we'd ordered from the co-ops of spares and whatever on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 days a week. And he had seen what he thought were terrorists hiding in the bush to cross the main road, coming from the east to west. That's when we got the first inkling that they were in our area. And actually, Chelvey compound got ambushed that night, and they were there. They came in to be fed that night, and quite a few of the labour were injured in that contact, and a few terrorists or two probably were caught. I can't remember exact details. So in the following weeks, months, we did sweeps through that area, and we found camps. There were, a couple of camps. We found the one which was reasonably recently used. And then a few days later, we went up into the next range of hills, and we found another one, which I think we disturbed because a bit of kit was left behind. So I think they saw us coming up the gully towards their camp. So we picked up a few more things there. So there was quite a lot of bush area coming through from Midziwa, Darlington, Badeli, Headleywood, Dundry, Chelvey, to Chiweshi. It was quite we think was a good passage for them. And they kept it clean. They never did any attacks or anything there to keep everyone away.
Your party stick, was it purely farmers or other guys that came in on call-ups?
No, purely farmers.
Purely farmers, okay.
Yeah, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them were in their late 40s, mid to late 40s, and then 2 of us in our mid 20s, 26, 27s. So we brought the average age down to 42. So yeah. So
and,
yeah,
and
no.
What was your armament? FNs at that point?
Yes, just FNs. Yeah, FNs. Yeah. So
and standard army radios, A76, A73.
I think it must have been a 76. The stick leader had it. It wasn't we had the 63 in the army, I think, the A63.
I think so. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that was it wasn't that one. So it must have been the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another incident on the farm was, again, up on my western side were granite copies, and I had Machena next door. I was there in the tobacco land one day, about midday, and in the copies there, the granite, there was suddenly an almighty fireworks going on, like a contact. Unfortunately, it was about 11:30, so I just said to everyone, right, Ed, let's go for lunch, because we used to have lunch between 1 and 12 and 2. So we took off, and then I found out it was Andy Samuels. He had a training camp, because it was a vacant farm at that stage. So he was there, and he was in there with a training camp, just doing live firing, and yeah. I just said thanks for the heads up.
Yeah. Just as well you went to lunch.
Yes, yeah, no, yeah, not in there. Yeah, so I had my 9mm and FN. The FN was with me most days, depending where I was working. We'd have the odd pig shoot where the labour would drive through a bush and the pigs would come running out, and so with the FN on, with the things running away at a 45-degree angle, I'd drop a few on the run. So yeah, it was.
But nothing like a bit of wild boar, wild pig. It's lovely, eh?
Yes, yeah.
And no. How did your wife cope with all of this? What was her daily routine? Did she go and visit other ladies, or there's a lot of house stuff to do, and maybe planting a vegetable patch or something, to keep the veggies going? What was her role apart from the kids?
The kids.
The kids, yeah. Yeah, I sort of assumed they would be, obviously they were very young, not at boarding school, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, life just went on as normal. I mean, there was the kids and the bookwork, for the farm books and the garden. yeah, in those days, it was only later in things that we went into hypericum and stuff that she got involved in that sort of side of the farm. Although we didn't sort of socialize too much at night until after the 80s.
I was
Yeah.
going to ask that, yeah, did you guys ever have any social life? I suppose during the daytimes you might have been able to get up to a club or to,
Yeah, no, or do Sunday lunches. We'd all get together and at our house, and then there were still the club was still going and people doing that. We didn't really, as I say, socialize that with two babies.
hmm.
Yeah, we didn't go to the club that much in those early years.
What club was it you went to?
The Matepa Tepa Club.
The Tepa Tepa. I
Yeah,
think it was in Toko. I drove past after the war, sometime after, and I think there was a club there. I never operated in that area, so I can't tell you. But I just saw the old kiddie swings all rusted and the seat hanging at an angle, and I just thought, I think there was a
yeah.
tennis court there, it's all collapsed, and just so sad that that communal life just disappeared. Eh?
So you say Matoko?
I think it was, yeah, Matoko.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm,
yeah. Well, that was the sort of first area that was resettled with a lot of those farmers came to Concession, Missouri. There were a few that I knew there.
mm.
And I mean, the first thing those blokes did was strip the house, sold the corrugated irons and the door frames and window frames, and built their huts on the lawn. You know, so that's what happened in the early 80s.
Why didn't
With
they
that,
just live in a house instead of building rondavels?
they superstition or whatever. Their houses never had windows. They
Ah,
didn't like, you know, they were superstitious in that sort of side of it. So yeah, so they didn't go into the Marungu's house to live.
did you have any witch doctors in your area?
Yes, yeah, in Chueshi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did use them a couple of times when I couldn't solve a problem with stealing or whatever. But it was the labor that wanted to call them because it was more a labor problem than I didn't use them myself to sort out, theft on the farm or whatever. But
Having interviewed quite a few internal affairs guys, the tourists certainly used them to influence the locals against the whites. It was quite a powerful weapon for them.
yes, yeah. We used to do 9-day patrols and three
Hmm.
days off. There was OPs and sweeps and stuff. And when you come back to base, you just want to relax. That R&R means relax for a bit.
Yeah.
But these young officers made sure that you were busy the whole time. And in our shell scrapes, we had to rearrange the sandbags. And they were tidy. I mean, but in doing our fiddling and tidying up, there was a battery with one wire connected and another wire
Oh no.
loose. I took one look at this and said, "Oh, guys, do you think there's a claymore at the end of this?" And everybody sort of saying, "Oh, I don't know. We have no idea what." So I said, "Well, let's find out." And I touched it.
Hang.
No, no claymore. They were Icarus. There were
Ah,
like 4 ground Icarus
ah,
and 2 flares.
good Lord.
So I was marched up with one of the bottle washers to the officer there with our warrant officer, nicknamed Bloodnut, short, stocky bloke, screamed orders and just went red in the face every time. And
No.
got the order, what happened. I said, "Oh, accidentally this happened and this happened. And he was deciding what to charge me or do with me. I mean, they didn't really want to send me away because they
Mm,
needed the boots on the ground. But I turned to the warrant officer and said, "Hey, I did you a favor. Those ground flares were this side of the bush. They lit us up, not the enemy."
mm.
I said, "You laid those Icarus on the wrong side of the bush." Well, that just the officer, he cracked up and said, "Get out." So I got out of that one. Yeah.
So Don, my last question to you is, how long after independence did you stay farming? Was it a year, 2 years until you decided?
Till 2002, till I was kicked off, until we were,
So
but
22 years you carried on farming and then they said thanks very much.
yeah, yeah. So we got, I was beginning of March. I'm thinking round about the 6th of March in 2000, when they started invading the farms.
Mm.
They came and shut us down for a couple of days. We were curing tobacco, so that those fires just went out. So you get run back and whatever there. But we had a meeting in the compound, and I just, with the war vet and his entourage, were ex contractors that did brick making and builders that I had, and the one was even an ex foreman
Mm.
that I fired for stealing. Um, so they were the main guys, and I just said to them, "Who's going to be paying these guys? Because I'm not. You've stopped them." And that's when they suddenly realized, "Hey, we better get them to them." I managed to get the barn boys back that night, and then the next day it was 2 days before I could get back to work. But with that acquisition, I mean, there was 5 criteria. I can only remember like 3 of them. You had to be a citizen, own one farm, have a letter of no interest. So although I moved on to the farm in 77, I bought it from the folks in 1980. So I got a letter of no interest. So I fitted the 5 criteria. I can't remember what the other 2 were. So yeah, but it was a political move because when they marched up, the CIO were there in their Land Rover directing it. Because I've got a video. I've took video of it all. So yeah,
Mm.
when they saw that I had a camera, they suddenly went behind the vehicles and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it was politically motivated. So we finished that year. The next year, I could only do tobacco planting. They moved on to the lands. So they would now went and planted their maize and cotton and stuff. So that was 2001. 2002, I still had the house but I was now living in Aurora. I rented a house and went to the farm every now and again and just did the odd thing, but literally no crops. And so at the end of 2002, I emptied the house and managed to get most of my kit off, except the workshop and grading shed was all intact. So all my tools and welders, compressors, grading table, I had a belt table, was all still there.
And did you ever manage to sell some of it, or they just took it?
No, because I was in the beginning and I realized that it wasn't going to come right, I managed to sell my tractors and equipment, all that side of it. But I didn't clear the workshop or but then again, the house I managed to clear, but I had other sheds with storage rooms with other valuables that I kept away from the workshop. They were there. Yeah, I didn't get those off the farm.
How long, if ever, and it's my last question, I think, how long, if ever, did it take for you to overcome the anger of that whole scene?
Probably a few years. I mean, now it's just the way they're carrying on and not getting paid. I mean, like I go and see my sons in Cape Town and BLM. I don't know if this is going to be BLM is Baboons Lives Matter in the
Yeah.
Western Cape. So, and when people have asked me here, what do? I said, well, if it was legal and there was a baboon or one of them, I would shoot them,
Yeah, of course.
not the baboon.
Mm.
And yeah, so the anger is probably still back there because I haven't been paid out.
Mm.
I have moved on in otherwise, yeah. No, we're glad we moved when we did.
Not everybody likes Donald Trump, but I think he's making a lot of these nations stand up and realize they've got to on it. It's against international law to take away land. It's just appalling. But Don, I just want to thank you very much for your talk, and it ended on a bit of a sad note, but I'm glad that you're safe and you're still alive and living and got your wife and kids, and you're in a safe country until the Chinese attack you, of course. But
Yeah, well, that's the next thing. Yeah, hey,
yeah,
yeah.
So anyway, Don, thank you very much for coming aboard. I really appreciate it. And uh, as I said at the end of every other interview, you guys that watch, don't make comments. Oh, I was there and I did that. Come tell me about it. Let's have your story as well. So
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
my dates, facts are maybe, well, it's the way I saw it. Other people might see things differently,
doesn't matter. Doesn't
but
matter.
yeah, no, which is fine. I mean, I know that in a normal conversation,
Yeah,
but yeah, it'd be interesting to read the comments.
yeah, yeah. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. And hopefully one of these days your last bit of shrapnel will come out your body and you'll be a real happy guy.
Yep.
Happy camper.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Thanks, Tony. All right. Cheers.
Take care. God bless. Bye bye.